So if you had to pick only one website that you could go to every day, which one would you pick? For me, I think I'd go ahead and go with the draft simulator. Let's freaking go, man. I just do that mock draft simulator every single day, all the time. Mock drafts, can't get enough. What's coolin', by the way? I hope you guys are having a good day. It is a tough choice, though, if you think about it. Only one website. You could only visit one place every single day. Yeah, it's got to be the PFF simulator or one of the simulators out there or some sort of mock draft website. Let's get into, speaking of a mock draft, though, we have a 2-rounder today with trades. So let's go ahead and dive into this sucker. And here's the draft order, all updated and whatnot. Let's dive right into and enter the draft zone. In Tennessee, you're picking number 1 overall. So what do you do, Tennessee? Now, I'm going to say in this scenario, in this mock draft that I'm doing, Tennessee, they got Sam Darnold. I know you're saying, oh, not after last night's performance. They're not. Well, we'll see. I think Brian Callahan's going to have his eyes all on Sam Darnold over there. They do have some cap space as well, so they can give him a little bit of money, and they want to probably get a quarterback that could come in right away and help this team get better and hopefully get to the playoffs. And now that allows us to go and get the best player in the draft, or one of the best players in the draft. I do think Hunter is the best player in the draft, but Abdul Carter is very close. And I do think Abdul Carter is a bigger need for this football team. Their cornerback position's been banged up this season. However, it's a good positioning with L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, and Roger McCreary. He would play more wide receiver. Travis Hunter he would end up playing more wide receiver early on in his career. And I always just say you go with the best player available. But Abdul Carter is a really, really good football player too. And he would make me think twice about going Travis Hunter because I think he's that good of a player. And for this, I'm going Abdul Carter. I'm taking him here at the number 1 overall pick for the Tennessee Titans. I just think they need more edge presence, man. It's been a problem for him consistency-wise throughout the season. They've had some good showings, don't get me wrong. Harold Landry and Arden Key aren't terrible, but I'm telling you, both of those guys are going to be like 29, 30 years old, going the last year of their contracts. They need to bolster that pass rush up some more. Cleveland at number 2. Well, let's say, I don't know what to say. Maybe they get Joe Flacco or something, but I'm not going quarterback here for Cleveland. I'm taking Travis Hunter. I'm going best player available. This team, to me, needs to really look themselves in the face. Maybe they can figure it out in free agency as well. This is another team that screams Kirk Cousins. So let's go ahead and say they get Kirk Cousins. All right, there we go. That makes a lot of sense. So they get Kirk Cousins. You go get Travis Hunter to give him another playmaker with Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. So Hunter would be able to fill in for Elijah Moore. And he would also give them secondary help tremendously, right? Because their secondary has been a little bit chips this season. Now, Emerson should be able to get back into form, hopefully. But I think Hunter would be a really good player for them to get to help out that offense and defensively. You get Kirk Cousins in free agency on the cheap. If they cut him, you can get him like Russell Wilson sort of scenario. On to the New York Giants here, number 3. Now, look, I can't talk my way out of this one anymore. I've gotten lucky. Whoo! And I've talked my way out of these first 2. I'm going to have to do that for the rest of these months. But I'm going Cam Ward here. I'm taking the quarterback. Brian Dable, go select your guy. Cam Ward, to me, just figures on to be a Giant. I do think Cam is probably the best quarterback in this draft, at least right now. I do think Jalen Milroe might have the most upside in this class, but you're going to need to have the right development. And at this point, Joe Shane, Brian Dale will probably need to get a guy that can start. And when I say probably, I mean, yes, they need somebody to come in right now. On to the New England Patriots here, number 4. Offensive line, wide receiver, the 2 biggest needs. So I'm going defensive tackle, Mason Graham. Well, here's my argument for this. I think that Mason Graham is a top 3 player in this draft. So you just can't avoid taking good football players. McMillan's a really good football player. I also really do like going even just offensive tackle there as well. I just think Will Campbell's a very good football player, and that's what I would do. Like if I'm forced in taking a offensive player, I'm taking Will Campbell because I just don't see him busting in the NFL. I think he's going to be a very, very good football player. But in this scenario, I think Mason Graham would be an excellent addition to this roster. They do have money and that they can go out and spend in free agency. So I'm not like pigeonholing things. I don't want to throw it out and say, oh, I have to do this sort of thing. I just don't like doing that. I think you got to go with the best players in the draft. Mason Graham is one of those guys. He's going to be a top 10 defensive tackle in the NFL, I feel like, at some point, barring injuries. On to the Jags here at number 5. And I'm going to do the same thing that I always do. And I had to doobie. I don't know. But Will Johnson, I like that little rhyming up there. But something like that. Porky Pig style. Will Johnson going to be the cornerback pick for the Jags. As I talk about, this is just one that's self-explanatory. Go get some secondary help because Ronald Darby, more than likely, he's under contract for one more season. Tyson Campbell's even had his struggles this season. No matter what, I feel like they need some more outside perimeter cornerback help. On to the Vegas Raiders, and I'm going quarterback. You guessed it, Shedeur Sanders. And the more things go on, I think they're going quarterback at number 6. There's a lot of speculation going on right now. Who's going to be the head football coach? Is it going to be Ben Johnson? Is it going to be primetime Sanders? Who knows? If Shedeur, I would say this. If Dion ends up being the head coach, then Shedeur is definitely going to go to the Vegas Raiders, and they will do whatever they can to get him. But they do need a quarterback, and that is the most apparent need on this roster. But they've got a lot of needs. Running back. They still could use some more offensive line help. Wide receiver is a huge need for this team. Linebacker, cornerbacks, probably the number 2 need on this roster. So you name it, they got a lot of areas that this team could look at. Shedeur Sanders, though, does seem like a very realistic pick for the team. On to the Jets, Jets. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a little bit of a different pick. Well, I do this one. I like this one a lot. Will Campbell, to me, I feel like he's been a little underrated at this point in the draft. People say, he doesn't have enough, his arm length. He's, a T-Rex arms, you know what I'm saying? But no, he knows how to win. And when you're an offensive lineman, I don't care how big your arm length is and stuff like that. If you don't know how to use your hands, if you got 38-inch arms, it don't matter, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't know anybody that has 38-inch arms in the NFL. If that is a thing, that would be insane. But it doesn't matter if you don't know how to use your hands, and I think Will Campbell knows how to use his hands. He's extremely strong. His grip strength is one of the best in this class, and I think you move him over to right tackle, and now you have yourself bookend tackles for hopefully the next 8-10 years in New York, which is not something this Jets team has had the luxury of saying for a very long time. Olu Fashanu at left tackle, and now you have Will Campbell over right tackle, and Campbell has right tackle experience as well, going back to his high school days, which will be really nice. On to number 8 and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Carolina Panthers fans like, what? You didn't go? Actually, they probably would. That would be a compliment if nothing else. But I am going, Carolina Panthers fans, keep pounding, nation. I'm going to be taking some help in the cornerback room here with a guy that is, to me, one of the best players in this draft class. He's a top 5 player in this class. I like him more than Will Johnson. Benjamin Morrison. And that's not a diss to Will Johnson. Will Johnson's a really good football player. I just think Benjamin Morrison is an elite tier type of cornerback, somebody that I could see being, after when it's all said and done, we look back on this in redrafts and people are mocking him top 5, top 3. I just think he's that good of a football player. He is the best cover corner in this draft. In Carolina, they've had a lot of injuries, so you might be saying, well, Benjamin Morrison's coming off an injury. We're dealing with J.C. Horn's situation. I understand that. That could be a little bit tough, but their secondary needs improvement. The defense needs improvement, so I'm just taking the best defensive prospects in the draft, and Morrison is the best on my board. On to the New Orleans Saints. Emphasis on new because they're going to have a new head coach here, and we'll see. I don't know. Mike McCarthy might end up being the head coach for you guys. We shall see how all that works out, but Mikey Loomis got a big decision to make coming. However, and he's also got a big decision here too as well, I am going to just go and take one of the best players on the board, Tetairoa McMillan. Receiver's not their biggest need on this roster. I do think offensive line might be a bigger need than the wide receiver position. At the same time, after this season, the amount of injuries that they faced, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave both getting injured, it's been such a problem for them this season, just not having enough weapons for whatever quarterback is here. So go and bolster this wide receiving core with McMillan. You got McMillan is your big-bodied guy. Obviously, Olave is a route runner, nuanced guy. And then Rashid Shaheed is your deep threat. I just think the combination is really, really good between those. And I think you're setting your future quarterback up for a lot of success here. And then we go on to the Bears at number 10. Well, it's offensive line, and that's nothing I need to explain anymore. Do I need to say a whole ton? Kelvin Banks Jr., whatever offensive lineman, Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Josh Simmons, go get somebody. Tyler Booker. There's a lot of guys to go out and get, but I think you got to go snag one of those dudes. I'm not against adding a pass rusher, though, here in the first round either, because I do think that they could find a guard or an interior player on day 2 if that's what they want to do. But guard, offensive line, you just got to go get one of those guys. And then on to the San Francisco 49ers. And 49ers, well, offensive line certainly in play. Edge rusher, both in play. Those are the top 2 things. The trenches, baby. We got to get better in those departments. But you know what? I'm going to do something a little different today. I said there are going to be trades, and we're going to make trades. I think this is a one that you never know. We could see it, especially if Ashton Jeanty starts falling. The Denver Broncos. They got just, manhandled in the run game. Maybe it would be nice if they actually had an explosive runner in their offense. we're going to make a trade up with the 49ers, a third-round pick to move up. And I know you might say, oh, that's not enough. It's not for a quarterback. So I don't know if this, trade has to be anything crazy. It's going to be a third-rounder. 49ers still win because they're getting a day 2 pick. And for the Denver Broncos, you're winning because you're getting arguably one of the best players in this draft class, and it's going to give Bo Nix that run game that they do not currently have. I think Ashton Jeanty is worth giving up a third-round pick for, because if you look at it, what Ashton Jeanty brings, even if you only have him for 5 years, he could be a top 5 runner in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey level. And what the 49ers gave up for Christian McCaffrey, you have to look at that. That's a lot more than Ashton Jeanty, so than just a third-round pick. I think it makes sense. Jeanty is a phenomenal price, and it is a different approach. It's something to think about. I'm not saying you do it. It's still a lot to give up. It's a price when they have other needs on this roster. But at the same time, I do think that Ashton Jeanty is definitely a top-tier running back. I got a question for you Cowboys fans. What if Deion Sanders ends up being the head coach in Dallas? That would be a shocker. Like, I know they said reports of him talking. That would be incredible if he got the head coaching job. And you start thinking to yourself, would they even try to go after Shedeur Sanders? Is that something that is even possible? Just imagine if, like, the Tennessee Titans traded the number 1, like if they did a pick swap from 1 to 12 to give up Dak Prescott, that way they could get Shedeur Sanders. Just imagine that happen. Like, that would be mind-blowing. Like, I would be going crazy at draft night if that were to happen or whatever. Like, that would be incredibly crazy. But getting back to reality here, and it's tough because to me, it's between Malachi Starks and Luther Burden. I would consider maybe even Josh Simmons at this point. Like, I'm not going to lie. I think that would be an interesting one. Or Emeka Egbuka, too. I like Egbuka just as much as Burden. I'm going to take Luther Burden. Malachi Starks is very, very tempting, as I was talking about. They need some more safety up. Like, they need somebody that can roam that back end. So Malik Hooker could be on his way out, too. I feel like they just need an upgrade there in that free safety role on that defense. So don't be surprised if Malachi Starks end up being the pick. I'm going to add another offensive piece because I do think that's a bigger need for the football team. But safety is definitely up there for this team, as is a run-stopping nose tackle. On to the Miami Dolphins at number 13. It's offensive line. Like, to me, it's offensive line, and there's no other way I'm looking at this. You need to improve the trenches. Chris Greer, Josh McDaniel they did mention the offensive line being a priority, so I'm glad that's giving me some optimism that they're going to be looking at this ASAP. And to me, Josh Connolly, he is a tackle to me, but I do think you can move him inside the guard. And for the Miami Dolphins, they like athletic players. They like athletic players, whether it's offense or defense. Connolly is one of the best athletes on the offensive line in this entire draft class. So if they wanted to move him inside, I'm okay with that because he can do it. But he could also compete with Patrick Paul. I keep wanting to say Chris Paul, but Patrick Paul for the long haul at that left tackle position, and the best man wins. Been over to Indy here at number 14, and I know you're saying to yourself, we need to see another trade happen out here, right? I'm sure that's probably not what you're saying, but I'm making another trade here with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm moving up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they need to get some more pass rush on quarterbacks, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to move up from number 19 to number 14 for Tampa Bay. We'll go ahead and say this is a third rounder as well. It could be, I think that's fair. It could be a fourth rounder as well, because look at New England to move up with in front of the Jets, or the Pittsburgh Steelers to move with New England, right, a few years back for the Broderick Jones trade. That was a fourth round pick, but that was less picks. So we'll go ahead and go a third rounder. I think that makes sense. Force that through. And with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick, I'm going to go ahead and take James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher from Tennessee. He's going to bolster that pass rush for this team and give them a true number 1 edge rusher. Something that I could talk about. They just need to be able to finish. They need to be able to, like Jaden Daniels, getting out of pressure consistently. That's not all on the edge rushers and the defensive line, but just Jaden Daniels being Jaden Daniels. But throughout the season, they do need more sack artists besides Yaya Diaby and Chris Braswell. Joe Tryon-Tranka is a free agent as well. Another way to look at it too, you're in jump in front of the Atlanta Falcons, which I'm saying, like, so it's a little bit of a division rivalry thing. You don't want to go up against James Pierce Jr. twice a year, right? Another guy I don't want to go up against twice a year, Mike Green. Marshall. Oh my gosh, Mike Green is insane. I'm telling you right now, this is not too high for Mike Green. Not in my opinion. I think Mike Green's a top 20, top 15 player in this draft class. He is unreal. Can't wait till we get more into it, because I think he is going to rise even more than he already has. PFF, what, has him mid-40s right now? Yeah, no, I think he's going to be top 20 by the end of the cycle. I think he's going top 20. On to the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals, that right tackle position is a big question mark. And Jonah Williams, he is a good football player. I don't want to discount that, but the knee injury is a very big concern. I do think he'll come back, and I do think he'll play for the Arizona Cardinals. With that being said, they do have a guard vacancy as well. Like, there's a good chance that they don't bring, or they only bring back one of either Will Hernandez or Evan Brown at the guard position. You have Isaiah Brown, or Isaiah Adams. I'm bugging like crazy out here. I don't know what's going on, but the brain's not going. It's not functioning. I'm thinking about mock drafting too much, right? The mock draft simulators, and I'm trying to be the, I'm still thinking about that question from earlier. Anyway, this is one where I think that they could, maybe even a guard, potentially with free agency with a lot of their voids there. So Simmons could play guard early on, fill one of those voids, or he could fill that injury void at right tackle if Jonah Williams is not set. So I like Simmons. I like the value here, especially with just the pass rushers running off the board at this point. Interior defense line is very tempting. Kenneth Grant, give me a little pause there. Tyreek Williams, both guys I really, really like. However, I think Simmons here is a really good pick for him and the values. So I think it makes a lot of sense to get your offensive line. Make sure you protect Kyler Murray. On to the Bengals, another team that needs to protect their quarterback. I'm going to go Malachi Starks, though, here. At this point, I do think he's the best available on the board. And to me, that's an area in their secondary that they've really struggled down this season is the safety room. Getting some more help in the back end should shore up this. Plus, hopefully, a new defensive coordinator. Maybe Matt Eberflus. Man, Eberflus, you pair up, you put Starks in that back end, I think that would be a dream come true. The Seattle Seahawks, and there's probably some teams saying to themselves, oh, you thought that you could get away with that, Indianapolis, by trading down and still get Tyler Warren? You know what I'm saying? So Seattle, let's go and make a trade. There's a couple of teams very much in that card, that sweepstakes at this point. A team that I'm looking at, the LA Chargers. They need a tight end. They need a good one. They need somebody that can catch the football. So I'm going to make a maneuver here with a 4th-round pick. I think that's fair. They have a lot of those picks, too, on day 3. They could use some of those, package deal, etc. But moving up a couple of spots, let's get that deal done. And the Chargers going to select Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, the superstar, adding in a reliable playmaker for Justin Herbert. And Indianapolis like, dang it, we thought we were going to get away with that. And that's okay. There's still some really good football players. Areas I'd be looking at for the Colts, of course, tight end. You could still go Colston Loveland here at this point. Harold Fanning Jr. Ooh, that'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Be a shocker, but I love Harold Fanning. It wouldn't shock me if he goes in the first round when it's all said and done. Defensively wise, though, a number 1 corner, they still use that. Siobhan Rebels to talk about, fits that Chris Ballard need. Safety, depending on what they do with Julian Blockman. And then off the ball linebacker is a big need. And you know what? Let's do it, man. Jihaad Campbell's a guy that I think needs to start rising up boards even more. And this is the highest I think I've ever taken Jihaad Campbell, but I do think he's worth a top 20 pick. I think what he brings to the table as not just a linebacker, he can blitz, he can play off the edge, and his coverage ability is, I think he is a better prospect than Jalen Walker. I know Walker gets a lot of hype, but to me, Jihaad Campbell's a better football player. That's just my opinion. I think Campbell is a better strictly as a linebacker, and as a pass rusher, I think he's got better tools than Jalen Walker. He's got bigger arms. I think he's a bigger guy as well, and he's got just as good of athleticism as Jalen Walker does. So I don't know, man. I really think Jihaad Campbell is somebody that we need to start talking about more and more. Really like Jihaad Campbell. I think he could be a beast for this Colts team. Next to Jair Franklin, too. Oh, man, that would be insane. On to the 49ers here at number 20. We're going to do a 49er thing. I'm going to go grab a pass rusher. I'm going to go grab Mikael Williams. He's going to be a developmental project. I feel like he's probably about 2 years away from really being able to hone into his skills. But that's okay because you still have Leonard Floyd under contract. Same thing with Yetur Gross-Matos. So Mikael Williams is going to be more of a rotational player early on, but you know Lynch, you know Shanahan. Go get them trenches. Go get that defensive line prospect for the long haul next to Nick Bosa, or opposite of Nick Bosa. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers here at number 21. You know what? I'm going to also make a trade here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got an interesting idea here. Howie Roseman, he's seeing a Georgia Bulldog on the board, and you know I could totally see him going after this guy if he starts slipping a certain point. And as I talk, I don't want to hate on Jalen Walker. He's still a really good prospect, but I think that Jihaad Campbell needs a little bit more love, if you know what I mean. I am going to trade up with Pittsburgh We will give up. What should we give up here? We'll go ahead. Ooh, let's do a second rounder next year. All right, let's get a little creative with this. Second rounder next year, and maybe a day 3 pick, something like 162 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That way they get something this year as well. The deal is done. I'm going Jalen Walker here from Georgia, and they do a great job at developing these type of pass rusher. And also, he fits exactly what Vic Fangio is going to be looking for with his edge rushers and off-the-ball linebackers. He can play a little bit of a hybrid role as well on that defense. On to the Seattle Seahawks, and I would actually really consider Jalen Walker at this pick. And that's okay. At this point, I'm going to go and take offensive line. And you know what? I've taken Tyler Booker quite a bit, and I love the value here for Tyler Booker at 22. But another guy, especially if Clint Kubiak ends up being the OC for this team, I know there's some rumblings about him potentially landing the OC job for the Seattle Seahawks, then Armin Embu would be a better addition, I feel like, because he's a little bit more athletic than a guy like Tyler Booker is. Not saying that Tyler Booker can't handle it, but I think in a wide zone system, I would rather have a guy like Armin Embu in that offense. I think that makes a lot more sense. And both are really good football players. Both, I think, are in a very similar territory value-wise. Embu is a better athlete. He's super strong. He's not as strong as Tyler Booker. He doesn't have that type of knockback power. But I do like Embu a lot, especially on the inside of the guard. It'll mitigate some of those lunging, attributes with him and ability on the outside. On to the Green Bay Packers at 23 overall. Something I'm going to do, Emeka Egbuka. They need another playmaker in this room, so I'm going to go take one here. I know it's a first-round wide receiver, Brian Gutekunst. Has he ever even drafted a first-round wide receiver in his tenure? I don't think so. So, yeah, I mean, they haven't drafted a first-round receiver since, the late 1990s or early 2000s, I believe. I figure, why not? Let's go against all the odds here. I'm not ready to bet against the odds. Take the over, take the under. I don't even know what that means. On to number 24, Minnesota Vikings. Skull, skull, skull. Tough way to exit the playoffs. Couple areas that this team could go after. Guard, all right, definitely could be one. Interior of that offensive line, man, not good. And it's been a problem all season. It's not just been this game. They've been having problems with their interior offensive line for years. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't shock me. Now, Kevin O'Connell, Tyler Booker, would it make perfect sense exactly schematically wise? I don't know. And again, just get good offensive linemen and worry about that later on. So Tyler Booker is definitely in the cards here, but at the same time, they also need a cornerback. It just depends what they do. I think Byron Murphy, there's a good chance he comes back. Even still, they need some more help on the perimeter. I'm going to go with Siobhan Revel here. Tyler Booker would be a fun one, and I could see that. Okay, I definitely could. Or some offensive lineman because they need a guard. Maybe a trade back. A trade back would be really good too. I just couldn't find a suitor at this point. I don't know if they're at this point on the draft, if I can find somebody to trade up for certain players. It is a little bit challenging in that regard. So we're just going to take Revel, get themselves a cornerback with elite upside there. Houston Texans at number 25. I'm going to go ahead and take Kenneth Grant. At this point, Kenneth Grant, great value, actually. At the end of the first round, I like the value a ton on Kenneth Grant. He's still a little raw, I think. He's nowhere near as polished as his teammate, Mason Graham, but his athletic profile for his size is just incredible. And you get him on that Houston defensive line, they could use somebody there for that long haul. That's somebody that can be that cornerstone on that interior, and Kenneth Grant certainly can do that. On to the Rams here at number 26. There's a couple areas I'm looking at here. It's offensive tackle, it's cornerback, and possibly a linebacker. Now, Jihaad Campbell's off the board, so I'm not taking any other linebacker at this point in the first round. There's some interesting prospects, but I'm not going to take anyone at that point. But I am going to be looking at Jahdae Barron here. I think Barron makes the most sense for them. They play a very heavy zone scheme. Barron would be a perfect addition for their secondary. Get them somebody for the long haul in that secondary. Now, I will say Quentin Lake at the safety position is good. Kobe Durant has been playing really, really well. Darius Williams has been a little bit of a disappointment for the signing. And he's not a bad player or anything like that. And cornerback, he's a little volatile in general. No matter what, though, they need some more help in that secondary, and I do think that's a big priority for them this offseason. Finding somebody that they don't have to keep, they keep stopgapping things, kill Witherspoon, and Witherspoon's a good player too. I'm just saying, they need a cornerback for the long haul, you know what I'm saying? That's the thing there. On to the Commanders here at number 27 overall. I'm going to go and highlight a guy that I think deserves to be highlighted. Jack Sawyer, the captain from the Ohio State University. He is just unbelievable, man. I mean, I'm telling you, Captain Jack, he is one of the best players in terms of like that I feel in this draft class that if you tell me he's a bust, I will be shocked. On and off the field, this guy the way he carries himself as a leader, as a dude that you know he's going to come into the building and be a hard worker, hard-nosed guy. He's got all the traits to be a very good player off the edge. He's not an elite bendy guy. So if you're looking for more of a bendy guy, then you're probably looking elsewhere. I think Sawyer, though, is going to be a very good addition to whatever team gets him on the defensive line. On to the Baltimore Ravens here at number 28, and I'm also going to go defensive line. I'm going to go with Nick Scorton. Now, the reason I didn't go with Scorton for the Commanders, I see Scorton as more of a guy that's going to play like a 5-tech role, somebody that'll play inside out, but more or less, I see him as a 5-tech, somebody goes against head up on tackles, maybe even lines up as a 4-shade, 4-eye. And for the Baltimore Ravens, they could use that in their defense. And I will say their interior pass rush, I mean, Matabuki is a really good football player. I do think they still need some more there, more pass rush. It hasn't quite been the consistent presence that it was last year. And that is an area that I think that they're going to be looking to upgrade, adding in somebody who at least compete with Broderick Washington on that interior. Also, Walter Nolan would be a really good pick for them too. But I'm going to go and take Nick Scorton there. I think that's a really just a very good football player. I don't think I know PFF has him ranked at number 10. I'm not that high on Scorton. He's a good football player. I really do like him. But I do think you need to understand his limitations. Very good power, just doesn't really have the athleticism, I think, to be a consistent 10-sack guy off the edge. I think you're going to be better utilizing him as an interior rusher to use mismatches and stuff. To the Bills of Buffalo, and I think I'm going to go, you take a look at what they need. I think a cornerback / safety, both big areas that this team has to fill this offseason. I also think that you need some more defensive line help, whether it's an interior player. You do have some guys and whatnot, of course, but you gotta factor this in. And even though they got Dwayne Carter, I do think that they still could use like a 1-tech. Daquan Jones, getting a little bit older now at this point. I don't think you can fully rely on him to be a full-time starter. Very good football player. You got Ed Oliver, of course, really good football player. But I do think they could still use somebody else there, and a guy that I like a lot. And this is not the number one need, but I do think Tyleik Williams at this point, on who is available currently, is the best player available. So that's the way that I'm going to go. Williams is just a very, very solid football player. Knows how to use his hands, knows how to get off blocks. And as a true 1-tech, this guy is going to be a great addition next to Ed Oliver and then Dwayne Carter as your rotation. That's going to be a studly group on that Buffalo Bill defensive line. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 30. Okay, things get a little interesting here. Pittsburgh, we traded down. You're at the back end of the first round. I'm not saying this is, easy to do, okay? And I just clicked the quarterback thing and you're like, oh no, what is he doing? What are you doing? You're not going to hit draft, are you? Boom, I did it. We're going Jalen Milroe. I got to give a shout out to Space Ghost on this one. He gave me a little shout, be like, wouldn't that be an interesting little move? I like that one a lot. We shall see what happens at the quarterback position for them. We'll see Russell Wilson. Does he get re-signed? Does Justin Fields get re-signed? Those are all things that we're going to have to figure out as the offseason goes along. But they do need to think about the quarterback position for the long haul. Jalen Milroe would be a great developmental piece. No matter who they bring back, I think it would make tons of sense for them to be able to draft somebody here at the end of the first round that they can develop and groom into be the heir apparent. Get yourself maybe that Cordell Stewart plus vibes. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like they always seem to swap from going mobile quarterbacks to more, pocket passers. Now they're going to a mobile quarterback. Let's go get somebody that can give you that Lamar Jackson effect, hopefully, into their offense in that division that you need to be able to score points in. Kansas City Chiefs here, number 31. And for Kansas City, I'm going to find the heir apparent that they've been looking for. Not the heir apparent, but the guy next to Chris Jones that they've been looking for a hot minute. I'm going to go get Walter Nolan, interior defensive lineman from Ole Miss. He's strong. He's quick. He's agile. Needs to work on his counters. That's the big thing for him. But he definitely has the athleticism. He has the profile to be a great number 2 guy next to Chris Jones on the interior. Final pick of the draft, final pick of the first round. We're not done yet. I'm not done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go offensive line here for the Detroit Lions. If I can't even speak, the Detroit Lions, the Super Bowl champion Detroit Lions, might I add that, in this mock draft simulator, of course. I'm going to take Tyler Booker, Alabama. They love Alabama football players. He fits exactly what they're looking for. He's going to give them more power, more run block ability where you can just run. Number 2, the Tennessee Titans are first up here at number 33 overall. And I'm going to, and also pardon me if the order is a little bit off here. With the simulator, it can be a little funny. So this may not be 100% the order. I'd have to double check on that. Anyway, the first round order is correct. Sometimes when you get into the second round with the simulator, that's the only problem. That's a lot of times why, especially if I'm doing more than one round, I like to do my own template and stuff, so I make sure the order is right. With those things, it's not going to affect it too much. We're still going to be able to try to keep things aligned and all those things. We'll try at least. But round 2, here we go. I'm going to start Tennessee off with another weapon. Remember, we got Sam Darnold in free agency in this mock draft scenario. We get Abdul Carter with that first pick. Give them some pass rush. Now I'm going to add a weapon. I'm going to add a receiver for this Tennessee Titans team. Get somebody else in here besides Calvin Ridley and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. And Westbrook-Ikhine is a free agent, so that's something to consider as well. I'm going to go Xavier Restrepo, the Miami Hurricane, and he is a Hurricane. He is so reliable. And people are going to discount that because, he's a smaller, he's a little slower. Dude, he has got some of the crispest routes in this draft class. And I don't care. You're available. Availability and catching the football are the two big things. Can you create separation? Yes. Can you catch the ball? Yes. Can you make those tough catches? Yes. Those are all critical things to playing the receiver position. Restrepo does it. And he's got that quick ability, that lateral agility, and that burst to be able to get open. And like I talked about, his routes are nasty. Some of them are really good. Cleveland here at number 34. I'm going to go grab a running back. I think that they need to really get some more Joes, and we can even look at our picks here, but Travis Hunter's who they got in the first round, so he's going to be another dynamic piece on offense as well on the defense, but I want to make sure we add in a bell cow, because Nick Chubb is a free agent. Maybe he's re-signed, maybe he isn't, who knows? No matter what, they're going to need some more help in the running back room. I'm going to go Travion Henderson, the Ohio State University man. This dude is so fast. I mean, that burst that he has is top tier. He's got 4.3 track speed. I mean, maybe not track speed, because, track speed to me is like 4.2 speed, Olympics and all those sort of things. But he has very, very good speed. And the dude has good vision. He's really worked on he's gotten stronger too in terms of his contact balance. And while his contact balance may not be on Marion Hampton or Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins level, he's a very good running back. And I think he has a pass catcher too. He's very reliable, good hands. And he's also a good pass protector too, which is really important. On to the Giants here, number 35. I'm going to find, just like we did with Chris Jones, I'm going to find that sexy, Dexy number, 1-2 punch on their defensive line here. Let's go ahead and go to the defensive interior. I am going to go, let's go TJ Sanders. Let's go Derek Harmon. I like Harmon, the Duck. We'll get him to PR up next to Sexy Dexy. I think it's a good complementary set of skills. He'll be that pass rusher. And Sexy Dexy, of course, is everything. But Harmon's also a really solid run defender, too. He's good at shooting gaps and things like that. And just needs to, work on the missed tackle rate with him. It's definitely been a problem, right? A lot of times he'll take himself out of plays, but he's very, very good as an explosive guy up and getting into the backfield quick. And on to the New England Patriots in the first round, we got Mason Graham going BPA. Man, he's so good. Second round, though, we need to let's try to hone it in a little bit. Let's get some help for your quarterback, Drake May. Between a weapon and an offensive lineman, those are two critical areas. I am going to go Wyatt Millam here, the West Virginia Country Roads. Bring him home here to New England. They've produced some good offensive linemen. You got another one here with Wyatt Millam. Whether he plays guard or tackle, I'd give him a shot at tackle. I really would at this point. However, even if he plays guard, I'm cool with that. They need help anywhere on their offensive line. On to the Jags, who clearly need some more help on the offensive line as well. I mean, not clearly, but I think that right guard position, you try to find that future for Brandon Sheriff, and that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to go, I know I do this one a lot, but I like it. I really do. I think Jonas Savanaia, plug and play, right guard. He's really powerful. He's going to help that run game out even more, and he's got tremendous grip strength. And you limit some of those. I mean, his footwork isn't terrible, but I think it'll be way better on the inside. It'll limit some of those beating him off to the edge. And he also did play left tackle this season, which is tough. When you know what I'm saying? When you're a right tackle, and especially for a guy that doesn't have the most fleet of feet, to move him over to left tackle, interchanging like that, can be a little bit of a challenge. For anybody, it will be a challenge. Number 38, and the Las Vegas Raiders. We got our quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, and now I'm going to go grab a running back. This running back class is too good to pass up. I'm going to go with Marion Hampton here, staring me on the board. Very good football player. Might end up going in the first round. Who knows? But he's got one of those traits that you look for as a runner. It's called contact balance, man. He just boom, 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 get off me. He'll just punch people in the mouth with his shoulders. Even though he isn't like the most elusive guy, He has that quick cut ability, and it's just like he does that subtlety to make that one guy miss, and then just boom, he's electric. He's got that explosion. On to the JETS Jets here, number 39. First round, we got Will Campbell. Let's go get some defense, all right? Let's defense this thing up. I'm going to go get some safety help for this football team. And the guy that I'm going to go and get, it's a tough one, I'll be honest. I like there's a lot of good safeties on the board here. Xavier Watts, Kelvin Winston Jr., Nicky Manwari, Andrew Makuba, Lathan Ransom, Sebastian Cat. I mean, there's just so many good safeties, I feel like, on this class. Michael Taft, later in day two, late day 2, early day 3. He's a good football player, walk on, great story. So, I mean, we could wait at the safety position, but this is a situation where the New York Jets are kind of desperate to get a safety. Everybody's a free agent, basically, I believe. So you need to go ahead and find yourself a safety. I'm going to go get a playmaker in here. Xavier Watts going to the New York Jets. Give them that ball hawk in the back end. And then on to the Bears here at number 40. And for the Chicago Bears, first up, we're going to go and grab a nice pass rusher to be that, that developmental edge for them. Even though you got Austin Booker, why not add some more pass rush into the fuel, into the fire? And that is what we're going to do here with Shamar Stewart, the Texas A&M edge rusher, who could also be a little bit more of an interior defensive lineman. Like, he could be a guy that you develop into an interior defensive lineman. But I'm looking at him as like a DeMarcus Walker, strong side replacement type of guy. Really good run defender, needs to work on his hands and block shedding. He just really doesn't know how to use his hands and get off blocks right now. He needs to get stronger with his hands. If he can do that, man, he could be a really good player because his athleticism for his size is rare. He could be the next Cam Jordan if he really has the work ethic. On to the Saints at number 41. And, I would have considered that option too for the Saints. But, well, we got other options here. And I'm going to go get some help on the defense and edge rusher specifically. Chase Young is a free agent. And I think it makes a lot of sense to go get somebody here. I'm going to go Donovan Ezeraku. I like Ezeraku a lot. I think his explosiveness, his bend are really, really top tier stuff. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say he's an elite athlete, but he is a very good athlete. The way that he's able to maneuver and use his hands as well, like he's got a plethora of pass rush moves. I think he's one of the better pass rushers in this draft class. So yeah, there's some limiting factors. He's not going to be the greatest run defender. He's not going to be your stack and shed guy, and that's okay. This Saints team, let's get some more pass rush. Let's bolster it up. You're Carl Granderson too on the opposite side. On to the Bears here at number 42, and I'm going to go grab a running back myself here. And Cam Skadaboo is interesting, isn't he? Skadaboo, Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, a lot of really good running backs. But I would love to add one of these guys in here because I feel like if you add in a really, really good, complete in-between the tackles runner to go along with DeAndre Swift and his big play ability, I think that just elevates this offense to the next level. And it also takes pressure off Caleb Williams having to throw the ball too much and getting sacks. And we addressed that, of course, with Kelvin Banks Jr. So we added some trenches, so that's going to help out. And it's also going to help in the run game as well. And if we have a dynamic in the between the tackles runner, that would be insane as well. I'm going to go Caleb Johnson. Skadaboo is, he's melting my heart and just telling me, ooh, that'll be a fun one. But, it is a tough one, man. I love Skadaboo as well. I'm not going to lie. I'll have to think of that one's going to bug me throughout this entire process. Anyway, let's go on to the 49ers here at number 43. And I'm going to go and take offensive line. Let's get some offensive line help. Cameron Williams, man, I think he should probably return for another season, I'll be honest. I'm going to go Marcus Bowe. I like Bowe a lot. He's a guy that I love his hands. I think he's one of the better hand technicians in this class in terms of hand usage, knowing how to use that snatch trap and be able to keep a defensive lineman off of him. So you get yourself a nice developmental right tackle. Might even be able to start early on in his career. Really good athlete, too. On to the Dallas Cowboys at 44. And for the Cowboys, I think we're going to go and add a safety, right? At this point, let's try to add a free safety, replace Malik Hooker, or somebody that can replace Donovan Edwards as a strong safety. Like, they need some more safety up. If you're looking to replace Donovan Wilson, I think I said Donovan Edwards. But the Don, we're mentioning him too. But if you're looking to replace Donovan Wilson, then you're probably maybe more like a Nicky Manwari, Lathan Ransom would make a lot of sense. If you're looking for more of a free safety, I think Kevin Winston Jr. would make a little more sense. And Winston's versatile. I think Winston can play in multitude of schemes. I'm going to go Kevin Winston here. I think that's a safe bet for this Dallas Cowboy team. Gives them that safety for the long haul. On to the Miami Dolphins here at number 45 overall. And the Miami Dolphins, we went after some offensive line with Josh Connolly Jr. Let's go get some defensive line now. And bolster those trenches up. And I'm going to go get TJ Sanders from South Carolina, really good football player, to fill out the frame a little bit more and get stronger. But I think he is one of the better pass rushers out of the interior in this class, actually. He's a really explosive guy. And I think he's got a couple of good pass rush moves. Still needs to add a few more to his repertoire, but I really do like his burst and ability, and he's got long arms as well. On to Ambos Colts at number 46. You know, we weren't able to get Tyler Warren in this draft class, but we still have Colson Loveland on the board. I actually love this better. We traded down, we got Jihaad Campbell, and now you would get Colston Loveland in the second round, which I think he might fall a little bit. I'll be real. I think he might fall. We'll see how he tests at the combine. That's going to be the key, whether or not he's a first-round pick or more of a second-round guy. I have him more as a second-round guy. I think Tyler Warren, Harold Fanning, to me, are tight end 1 and 2, possibly even when it's all said and done. It would shock me. I do like Loveland, though, a lot. He's right there as well. I think this tight end class, Mason Taylor deserves that conversation of 1-2 conversation too. Like, he's really, really good as well. Don't want to discount him on how good of a season he's had and how big of a playmaker he's been for LSU. And I'm sure he'll go off the board here in a little bit. On to the Falcons here at 57. And for the Atlanta Falcons, I'm going to go ahead and add a tackle to develop. I think that's something that this team could really utilize because you have to look at that right tackle position. Caleb McGarry. Also safety and right tackle, okay, or / even a slot corner. Those are the areas that I'm looking at for the Falcons. Now, the safeties we had a little bit of a run on, so maybe we'll wait on the safety room. They only have 4 picks, so maybe we try to trade down. You know what? I think that's actually what we're going to do for the Atlanta Falcons because they need to really try to work their best to get more draft capital. A team that I could see coming up here for a cornerback specifically or a safety would be the Buffalo Bills, right? There's a void there in that secondary. So it's going to be from 56 to 47. I'm going to give up. Do we go for quantity or just the highest pick? I'm going to go for a little bit more. I'm going to go 130 and then get a couple of day 3 picks here. I think that would be really, really helpful for this Falcons team. So let's do something like that. That acquires 2 more draft picks. Maybe you have to throw in a higher pick, maybe the 111, who knows? But it's a little bit of a rough estimate. I just want to get more draft picks. So we increase the draft capital by adding 2 more picks in this scenario for the Falcons because they need some more depth. They need some more draft capital. So that's going to help them get them up to 6 picks instead of 4. And for the Buffalo Bills, there's a guy, Trey Amos, also Zaria Thomas. I like a ton too in this range. I think he's a fantastic player. But we're going to go Trey Amos to be another outside cornerback for this football team. They need that number 2 guy. Rasul Douglas being a free agent. You have Benford. Now you have Amos. And then, of course, in the slot, you got Taron Johnson. On to the Arizona Cardinals here, number 48. And the Cardinals, I think a couple areas we look at here, why there may be another wide receiver definitely in play for the Cardinals. I think defensive interior is also a very big area that we could focus at as well. Since we went offense in the first round, I'm going to go ahead and look to acquire some defensive help. So let's go and get an interior defense lineman. I'm going to go Deone Walker. I think Walker at this point, the value is too good to take a chance on a guy that could be a Pro Bowl talent. He has all the tools. It's just the consistency with him is not there. He needs a coach to tell him, hey, get down in your stance, anchor, and also get off blocks, use your hands, block shed, you know what I'm saying? Use those big long arms. Come on, man. He's such a force to deal with one-on-one, but he just doesn't know how to use his hands, especially in the run game. On to the Bengals here, number 49. We went defense in the first round, Malachi Starks. Let's go offense with this pick. I'm going to go best available offensive line. They need to improve their offensive line in desperate measures. I am going to go, let's go Ariante Ursary. They need somebody that can move in the run game. You move him inside the guard, and I know I don't love to do that. I don't love the idea of just saying, hey, he's a tackle, move him inside the guard, because those are 2 different positions. At the same time, I think Ursary would benefit. It's like a Mekhi Becton treatment. You move him inside the guard, you let him just be, a strong mauler, and that's going to be where he's at his best, and he's going to help out that run game. He's going to protect Joe Burrow in the same element too. Let's go on to the Seattle Seahawks. I think I'm going to go and lean to the defensive line here. I'm going to add in, I like a Landon Jackson, a JT Tuimoloau, somebody that can play like a 5-tech role for them on that defensive interior, and also play a little bit edge, because Draymond Jones, Anichinowosu, both guys could be on their way out. One of them, I think, will be on their way out. It's a tough one. Who do you let go of? But cap-wise, they're going to have to make a maneuver. They're going to have to get cheaper somewhere. So let's go ahead and get JT Tuimoloau, the edge rusher from Ohio State, who is somebody I view more as an inside player. Could be a bit of a two-way player at the next level, but I do think he's going to see a good chunk of his snaps on the inside. To the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Cannons. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go off at the end of the game. That was a tough loss. It really was. But with their first pick, we got James Pierce Jr., hopefully going to help out that defense. I think cornerback is an area to watch out for, get some more depth. Now, what I'm going to do here is, I think since we traded up in the first round, let's see if we can get a little bit of a trade back. Guess who's got his hands on the button once again? Howie Roseman. He's going all in. He's just like, hey, you know what? Let's go for it, man. And that's what we're doing here with the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to trade up. We're going to give up, let's go 4th rounder here to move up. It allows the Bucs to recoup some of those assets and maybe like a late, 7th round pick or something like that. The Eagles, yeah, you're giving up a lot of draft capital, but you're also going to get some studs here. So with their first pick, you got Jalen Walker. Now we're getting a stud tight end for the future to develop behind Dallas Goedert, who's unbelievable, might I add. You may want to just give him an extension, but either way, like, they can use another tight end. They'll use these tight ends. And this is a matchup piece that you can't make this up, man. He can be a slot weapon for them. Maybe, Jihaad Dotson hasn't quite worked out in that regard. Harold Fanning Jr. I'm getting pumped up with that one. Oh my gosh, that's insane. If you walk out of that draft with Jalen Walker and Harold Fanning Jr., I know you give up a lot of draft capital, but that is crazy. Whew, man, that is insane. Nonetheless, I wanted to jump in front of the Denver Broncos to go get Harold Fanning Jr. For Denver, though, there's some good tight ends in this class. And I'm not like overly, oh man, it is a tough loss. I like Harold Fanning Jr., but I also like Mason Taylor. I think Mason Taylor is going to be somebody that you come in, he's going to be more of an inline guy as well, and certainly could be a dependent upon receiver for Bo Nix. And that's what I want to do. So we get as much help as possible for Bo Nix. We got him, Ashton Jeanty, in a bit of a trade up early in the draft. Now you get Mason Taylor, a reliable target through the years there at LSU, going back to his true freshman days where he was able to play as a starter and whatnot, what he means for that football team as well. I mean, Mason Taylor has been insanely good, so consistent, and he's going to be a really nice impact for Bo Nix as a receiver. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 53, we went after quarterback Jalen Milroe. Now, we need a weapon. We really do for Jalen Milroe. So I'm going to go let's say we go cornerback in free agency. All right, and that leaves us to going after a playmaker here in the draft because we do need to add somebody. I'm going to add in Matthew Golden here to be another wide receiver in this room. Very good route runner. He did declare too. He declared. But he is coming into this 2025 draft, which I didn't actually expect him to. But after such a good end of the season, it makes sense. He could even go in the first round. It wouldn't shock me. I know PFF's got him really high on the board. I'm going to have to do a scouting report on him. I've just watched the Texas games this season. I know Matthew Golden has been a stud. So I totally could see it, man. Like I said, I'll have to get into the actual scouting report of him here real soon and see how good the tape is. But he been a guy flashing for me all season long. On to the Chargers here at number 54, and we went after some help with Tyler Warren. Now we need to add some help on the defense. And I think defensive line needs to be the focus here at this point, even though Cam Skadaboo is really interesting at this point too, I will say. But defensive line, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these edge rushers here. Let's get to the edge rushers, actually, and see what we got. So we got Landon Jackson, Prince Umamielen, Kyle Kennard's a really good football player. I like Brandon Switson, though. Braden Switson's a phenomenal football player. Needs to be talked about a little bit more. And you know what? That's what we're going to do. He's another guy. I'm putting out a scouting report on Brandon Switson here really, really soon. He is somebody that I feel like is underrated. He's got to have a plethora of pass rush moves. He's got an explosive burst. He's got good size. And this LSU front has not been the same without I think they're going to struggle when they lose Switson this offseason. Now, getting Perkins back will be helpful for sure. And they've always seemed like got a rotation of guys coming up. But Switson's been a phenomenal player. And he's not just like the chicken broth or anything like that, man. He's like the full thing, man. He's like that bone broth. The way he hits you, just punches you off the edge. On to the Green Bay Packers here at number 55. And for the Packers, I'm going to go at a cornerback. Let's go with Azaria Thomas is on the board. Florida State. He's going to give you that press man ability on the outside. I think that's where he's at his best. Jeff Hafley is going to really accompany this guy to come right in and fill in for Eric Stokes if you lose him in free agency and getting more competition with Carrington Valentine on the outside on the perimeter. On to the Falcons here at 56. And at this point, let's go and find a developmental right tackle because you do have to start thinking about right tackle with Kay McGarry going into the last year of his contract. He is like $16 million on the cap. You could save $14 million if you wanted to let him go. He's earned that coming back. I'm okay with that. With that being said, if Cameron Williams does declare. And if he does come out, which who knows, by the time this comes out, you never know. He may not. He may have said he comes out. They're at this point in where we're at in the draft cycle, players are either declaring or they're saying they're coming back. I'm going to go Cameron Williams. I think the upside is worth it at the end of the second round. I really do like him, but he's got a lot of things to work on, right? And you saw him get beat by Jack Sawyer to lose that game. It was on display, and everybody's going to notice that, right? So that's what's going to get hit with his draft stock. So maybe he decides to come back. Ultimately, though, I still think he's got the tools. He's got the traits. You can develop him for a season. He doesn't have to start right away, and he could be your long-term succession plan to make sure you have that blindside protector for Michael Penix. The Houston Texans, and there's a couple of ways I look at this. It's like, do you go after another offensive lineman? Offensive line is a need, but they are moving Titus Howard. It seems like they want to put him more inside a guard, and then Blake Fisher at right tackle. I think that's their envision. So that would leave Shrugs as your starting center more than likely. Mason is still under contract. Could they still draft somebody here? Absolutely, but it is a real challenge in that regard. Or do I go after another playmaker? That's where I'm really struggling with it. And in terms of playmaker, I could see them going after a running back, wide receiver. I mean, Joe Mixon's been incredible. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying they could use that 1-2 punch. So it wouldn't shock me if they went after a running back like a Cam Scatterbo, a Dylan Sampson, Quinshon Judkins, Devin Neal, all really good football players. But with the depth, maybe they can find somebody in like round 3. I think that's where it makes sense to go after a running back for at least where they're at right now. I mean, the second round would be a good option too. I do like that. I think that'd be a really good pick for them. I'm going to add a playmaker in here. I am going, in terms of complementary skill sets, I mean, just getting best available receiver here. I am going to go Isaiah Bond. I'm going to take the chance on Isaiah Bond. He's going to be one of the fastest players in this draft. And you get that speed in that offense. It's going to open up everything. You can't stack the box. It's going to help out every department for that offense. Even if he's just a decoy, right, and only like a 500-yard receiver, it's going to make Tank Dell and Nico Collins. I was forgetting his name first. I'm like, oh my goodness, here we go. I forget Nico Collins. But yeah, I mean, how can you literally forget him? He's like, he's a mammoth out there. But I think it makes so much sense to add an Isaiah Bond and his speed out there. Add another playmaker. And going on to the Carolina Panthers here, number 58. And we got some help on the defense with Benjamin Morrison. Now, I'm not done. We need to get more defensive help. The pass rush, clearly a big need for the football team. You know what? I don't even need to look. I'm going Princely Umamielen. At this point, where he's at, second round, at the end of the second round, I think he's a guy that could even be a first-round pick. Now, I do think he's not the strongest guy, right? And he doesn't have like insane bend. His athleticism is not Mike Green level, okay? But he is a very good pass rusher, and he's going to be somebody that could be a 10-sack guy. I think he's probably going to be like that 7 to 10 sack guy. He's going to be a speed rusher off the edge. At least get you some help for sure for the long haul. You still might not have a true number 1 pass rusher in Umamielen, but I think he's going to be a quality number 2 pass rusher in the NFL. On to the Commanders here, number 59. First round, we got the captain, Jack Sawyer. I'm going to add a playmaker. And let's go Elikai Manor. I mean, with Jaden Daniels and those go balls, man, Elikai Manor is going to be that perfect addition on the outside, on the perimeter. You're getting him a big-time target on the outside to go along with Scary Terry. Even though I will say, Diami Brown had a big game. Olumide Zakia stepped up. They've got some guys stepping up. However, I still wouldn't mind adding another bona fide stud on the opposite end of Terry McLaurin. On to the Baltimore Ravens here. And, of course, Luke McCaffrey, too. I mean, he's developing. On to the Baltimore Ravens, though. At number 60, we went Nick Scorton in the first round. Let's go get offensive line. Even though their offensive line has done a great job protecting and just building, Derrick Henry, and Lamar Jackson is a big part of that, okay? Lamar Jackson's freaking Houdini, and he gets out of these blitzes, and he gets out of pass rush, so teams know that, and they have to be so careful. And obviously when you're doing like RPOs and stuff, linebackers always go with Lamar Jackson, so it leaves holes for Derrick Henry, and that's, it obviously helps out their offensive line, but I want to make sure we just improve it even more. I'm going to go with Donovan Jackson, move him into, or he is a guard. You have him and you stick him, plug and play, left guard, upgrade immediate. Or at least give him some more competition. Patrick McCrory can be a swing man for them across their offensive line. To the Buffalo Bills here with number 61. We did a little trade up, get some more secondary help. Maybe in this scenario, they'll go out and get a safety in free agency, right? Maybe they get an upgrade somewhere. Let's go get another playmaker for Josh Allen. You got Keon Coleman coming along, developing Khalil Shakir. Who's going to be that long-term number 3 guy? I'm going to add in Trey Harris. Receiver, Ole Miss, going to be another outside target. Shakir, your slot man. Shakir is unbelievable, I will say. But Shakir, slot, Harris, and Coleman on the outside as your perimeter big body targets for Josh Allen. On to the Bucks here at number 62. We did trade down. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a linebacker. I'm going to get the heir apparent for Levante David. Where is he? Oh, here he is. Carson Swissinger. He declared. I didn't think he was going to declare. He's coming out of this draft. This guy is going to he's another one I need to do a scouting report on. I think he could be a big-time riser, really good athlete, man. And he can read and react as well. He's not just an athlete. He knows how to play the linebacker position. So I'm really curious to see where he ends up going. But for the Bucks, they could use a linebacker for the long haul next to Savachier Dennis. Levante David is so good. You want to give him, just tell him to keep playing. You know what I'm saying? On to the Chiefs here at number 63 overall. In the Chiefs' first round, we've got Walter Nolan. Second round, I think let's go and add some more help on the offense. Tackle, of course, would be a huge area, but I'm not going to go second-round tackle once again. I think they would address it in free agency. If they're not going first-round tackle, then you're probably looking at free agency. So let's add another playmaker. They could still use a big-body target on the outside. I'm going to add in Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. Solid athlete, not an elite athlete, but a good mover and somebody that's going to have sure hands on the outside. I think he'll be at least a bigger body guy, but I think it would make a lot of sense to add in a Jaden Higgins on the outside with Rajee Rice coming back next year in the slot, and then you got your speed with Xavier Worthy. I think it just gives you a great complementary skill set. So your possession is Higgins, your slot yak machine is Rajee Rice, and then your deep threat is Xavier Worthy. It gives Mahomes all those weapons there. Final pick of the draft, the Detroit Lions. You got Tyler Booker first round, and I know they're probably saying, let's go for Alabama. Let's just, I'm going to go, and you know what? Oh, this is actually tough. Kyle Kennard. Landon Jackson. Oh, man, this is a tough one. I'm not going to lie. I am going to go and let's go Kyle Kennard here. These are both really good options. I'll be real. Both really good options at that point in the draft. But we'll go ahead and take Kyle Kennard to finish this thing up. And here is our draft. Here's how it looks. Definitely let me know what you think about this draft. What would you do differently? A lot of trades in this one. I had some fun. I'm not going to lie. This was one of the more fun mock drafts that I've had recently for me personally doing because just so many trades, so many unique possibilities and I do think that we will see trades. I just don't think we're going to see a lot of trades at the top of the draft. You just never know what's going to truly happen. So I do want to say that. However, I do think we're going to see a lot of trades. It just might be more of a late round one thing. It might be a mid round one thing. Who knows? Remember a few years back when everybody was trading up for receivers, Chris Olave, etc., Jameson Williams. It could be more like that sort of draft. I don't know. We shall see. Anyway, I hope you guys have a really cool day. My name is Chiesling. I'm doing my thing. I'll talk to you later.